Good evening, everyone. It is 6 p.m. on Monday, March the 2nd, and this is the Committee of the Whole meeting for the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands, and we'll call this meeting to order. To begin with, we'll use our land acknowledgement. With gratitude, the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands acknowledges these lands and waters are traditional territory of the Algonquin, Mississaugas, Mohawk, and Huron-Wendat. To recognize the role the township must play in truth and reconciliation, we also acknowledge the displacement of these peoples. Additionally, the township would like to respectfully acknowledge the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people who also call this place home. We make this land acknowledgement to honor the Indigenous ancestors who have stewarded these lands and waters since time immemorial. We'll move forward with number 3, adoption of the agenda, and the motion comes from Councillor Maybe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Foti, that the agenda be adopted as circulated. Discussion on the motion? I have no hands up, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next item is declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Does anybody have an interest to declare? Oh. No. Yeah. No declaration of pecuniary interest, so we'll move forward. There is no closed session this evening, so we'll move right to delegations. And I have a preamble to read. Personal information collected through these delegations are collected under the authority of the Municipal Act. All names, addresses, opinions, and comments are collected and form part of the minutes and video recording on YouTube, which are available to the public. Each delegate may address council with respect to the topic they have presented to the clerk. Members of council may address the delegation to ask a question for clarification. Opinions of members shall not be expressed. Debates on the topic will not be permitted. All delegates should address myself, the mayor, and state your name and whom you represent, if applicable. Following delegation, should council wish any action to take place, a notice of motion to direct staff will be required. So thank you very much for being here this evening. We'll start with 6.1, Leaf Presentation, Lyndhurst Turkey Fair. So if you could come to the podium, that would be great.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. My name is Barbara Jima. I am one of the directors with the Lyndhurst Events, Arts and Fairs, otherwise known as LEAF, which is a local group that we take over the Lyndhurst Turkey Fair, the Santa Claus Parade, and in future, hoping some other small events as we carry on. We bring the delegation forward here for this session. You've all had a chance to read our letter, so I'm not going to reiterate all of that. But we have this couple of discussion points. Because in the past year, we've had some issues with resident pushback. So our first question is, should the Turkey Fair continue at all? We do not want to see it disappear. It's been a staple in the community for over 30 years now, brings in a huge amount of people, business and interest into the community in the small village of Lyndhurst, but also the surrounding area as well. In order to carry on with the Turkey Fair, we're in a unique situation that Lyndhurst does not have a fairground. We don't have a large enough area to move an entire fair out of the village. Vice versa, if we did move something out of the village or move the fair out of the village, honestly, the fair would die. Because one of the big things that all the visitors, residents, local and from elsewhere enjoy is wandering the streets of Lyndhurst. You know, it's a beautiful little village, and it's very unique having the Turkey Fair right on the residential streets, which of course, you know, requires cooperation from everyone. And I would say probably 99% of the, residents of Lyndhurst are in support of the fair and enjoy it. They bring their own families out. But there's the few that are making it difficult. And over the years, the fair has changed. We've had to do some things. The majority of things that have changed have been due to safety concerns. Pulling vendors off of the main street, Lyndhurst Road, Highway 33, Vendors had previously had their backs only like a foot or two from traffic. It's just an accident waiting to happen. It was becoming more dangerous with the large amounts of vehicles that are coming through. The movement of the car show, again, that was a safety reason because people are wandering the streets, the residential areas in the village. The car show had to move because the car show participants would like to cruise the village, and that's just not, again, it's just something is going to happen. It's a safety issue there. And we were able to give them a larger space. But I'm going to move forward past that for now. And what we're asking council's assistance with is, number one was the road closures. Last year, we had the roads closed, was Jonas Street, Ford, basically the main residential area, was closed to, how do I say that, to local traffic only. So residents could still move in and out. That was never an issue. They could always do that. But it was to keep, just people cruising through, because that would happen previously. People see what's going on, let's just cruise down the street. So again, that was safety concerns. So we have two options, speaking on the road closures, is close the roads completely, like no access whatsoever when the Turkey Fair opens. So closed at 10, reopens again at 4:30. The other option is that we carry on like we have, which is road closed, except for residents only. So local residents could still move in and out as required, safely, slowly, but we're not preventing them from coming and going from their homes, which is most likely the best way to go. And but also, in order to do that, we do get barriers that are supplied by the township, which we really appreciate. Last year, we were unable to get the number of barriers that we actually needed. So we need council's support and the township support in providing the barriers, the number of barriers that we need to accomplish our goal.
Sorry, excuse me, Barb. Your 5 minutes is up. We'll let you wrap it up, but there is.
Oh, okay. I will go very quickly. The bylaw and police support. We really, given some incidents that happened last year, we really do need the assistance of the township to have bylaw enforcement for the day, or at least for the afternoon during the period of the fair. Police support, if possible. We understand, just like the fire department, any police support that's on site would only be there if they had to leave for a call, they leave for a call. The last one, or second last one, the property lines. Request your support in making the Lyndhurst residents aware that we are on public property, not on their private property unless we've been granted previous permission. And it seems that many of the residents of Lyndhurst do not understand where their property lines are. And the last one, very quick, and the last point was our permits. We go through a lot to obtain permits to be able to conduct the fair. Unfortunately, though, there is no means for the township to confirm who has a permit and who does not have a permit. So we have many that are setting up that are not part of Turkey Fair at all. They do not fall under our permit, yet everybody assumes that they do. So we do, again, this goes back to bylaw enforcement, most likely. We need some assistance in accomplishing our goals to safely, effectively continue on with the Lyndhurst Turkey Fair for the benefit of all. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question from Councillor Antoine Hartley and Deputy Mayor Fody.
Through you, Mayor. Barb, first of all, let's just say thank you. I don't think there's anyone in this horseshoe that doesn't appreciate the Turkey Fair and how it's been run for the past number of years. And I'm sure many of us were kind of unaware of some of the problems that you've experienced. So my one question is, do you see this more as an educational piece as opposed to an enforcement piece? So education from bylaw. So can we help by including a mailer with the tax bill saying, this is where your property line ends, and this belongs to municipal property, and et cetera? Would it be more helpful? It's been my experience anyways, that sometimes folks can get a little bit grumbly when they're inconvenienced. And, but they usually have a little snit and then they're over it. Especially when we're talking about 6 hours out of, I did the maths on this, 8,760 days in a year. So it's 6 hours in a year. So my gosh, we have longer hydro outages than that. So do you think that we could help you by educating through mailers, et cetera, about their bylaws, where they're allowed to be? And we already do have township staff at the Turkey Fair. And I'm wondering if it would be possible to have bylaw staff there as well. I don't see it as an OPP issue. They're always there anyways. They're on the outskirts.
Yeah.
They're always there. They can be there within minutes. So I see it personally as more of an educational thing than an actual enforcement thing.
Well, to answer that, that answer is yes. Number one, 100% yes, yes, and yes. We would rather see it as an education and working together. We are aware communication is key. We have had some failings in the past. We admit that. We understand that. We're working on communicating better with the residents and earlier. But education-wise, as you suggest, with the township assisting us, yes, I would prefer that over than bylaw. The idea of having bylaw enforcement is worst case scenario in an extreme circumstance. The better way to go, yes, is education, the assistance of the township, LEAF working with the township to get the messages out to residents. And it's not just the residents in the village. Lyndhurst covers a broad area. And so even, people who are living just on the outskirts are inconvenienced and should be aware of what's going on too. But if there's something that we can do, like you said, a mailer from the township assisting us, yes, I would say 100% yes, yes, and yes, please. That is the preferred communication route rather than penalty route.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Please.
Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Barb, you're absolutely right in the fact that the Turkey Fair is a staple in this township, has been for 30 plus years, right? And I think part of the uniqueness out there isn't just the volume of people and the volume of venues that are there that day. Where else can you walk around that many venues and be in the shade most of the time? Most places like Lansdowne Fair over here, you better have a hat on. And I think that's part of what makes it unique. You have bands sitting on somebody's lawn, and I don't need to tell you how it sets up. We've all been there countless times. My personal take, it wouldn't matter if you had 1 million people show up. There'll still be that handful of troublemakers. I think you need to concentrate, as you said, on the 99% and ignore the 1%. If they step outside of the bounds, then there will be legalities that can be imposed upon them.
Yes.
God forbid they hurt somebody. And excuse me, as Councillor Antoine Hartley had stated, the police aren't far away. They're there. They're well aware of the volume of traffic interacting with Lyndhurst that day from early in the morning to late in the afternoon. I don't think we can afford and or want to involve the police, but should we need them, 911, and they'll be there. Yeah. It's got to be disheartening for yourself and all the volunteers to do the work you do and then have 2 or 3 individuals, I could think of other names to call them, but we'll just refer to them as individuals that just want to stir the pot. But that's what they want to do. They wouldn't have the tenacity to put up the workload and help you do it. That's not who they would be. But I do want to ask you, what did you use for barriers? I honestly don't remember. What was it? Just a large cones? Is that the barriers that were at the end of the streets?
The barriers, cones were used at the top of Furnace Falls Park. We're right near the bridge there. At the top of Ford and Jonas, and then at the bottom of Jonas was just a single
The barricades, I think. they weren't barricades.
Alaska size?
it's like a wooden
Well, okay.
a wooden one.
Yeah.
It's usually only one.
Sawhorse.
Yeah, let's sawhorse for lack of a better word. It's usually only one. We'd ask for two because with one, people actually turn in and they drive right around it. That assistance would be greatly appreciated. And I agree 100% with everything that you're saying, is that unfortunately, it's the attitudes of a few that can make it difficult for the many. But again, the assistance of council and township in assisting us in accomplishing a few things. We understand the police. Sometimes you have to ask for more and then step backwards. But we totally understand, and we are aware. We always notify police when the Turkey Fair is going on. We provide them a map as well of everything that's happening, so they're aware. And we know that. We know they're close by.
Well, as you know, the barricades have to be as easy to come down as they are to put up
Exactly.
because of fire ambulance. With that volume of people, it could be a possibility that they would need to navigate any one of those streets at any given time. And our chief sitting there right within arm's reach of you, he doesn't want to have any barricades. We can't provide those. But on the other hand, I'm sure the township and staff here would 100% have your back. Excuse me. When it comes to providing what we can when we can.
Yep.
Bylaw would be one of them. More barricades would be another. Education, as Monique had indicated, is likely key. Dave, you online with us right now? Dave Holiday?
Yeah, Dave is online. Do you have a question for him?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Holiday?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Dave, Terry here. When it comes to streets in the villages, is it the same measurement applied there? It's 33 feet from the center of the road either way, belongs to the township?
That is the case with the villages where the roads are laid out. Yes.
Okay. You were looking for that number. It's 33 feet from the center of the road. And it wouldn't matter if you're,
Depends on,
it does. It does vary to some instances, but as a rule of thumb, that's what it is. But anyway, I think I'll cease, but we'd be glad to have your back and provide what staff we can and help you navigate the problem children out there and make sure this carries on for another 30 years.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone. Sorry if it's any
okay,
other.
that's okay.
You had
The
a-
counselor maybe has a question?
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. First off, are the residents in question opposed to the turkey fair or just using their property, in front of their house?
A couple have been opposed with using the property in front of their house. However, we're not on their property. We are on the boulevard and the street. All the streets are mapped out so that we ensure that there is a minimum, usually more space for emergency access for vehicles. Same with the barricades, like I said, the sawhorses.
Yes.
We do have volunteers who are there so that in
Yep.
the event of emergency, a vehicle
Yes.
can very quickly get down there.
Yes.
So the problem that we've had is that I will state, there are no driveways whatsoever that are blocked. We have not blocked anybody's access to their home through their driveway. There have been some residents that are opposed to the use of the boulevards in front of their home.
As a follow-up question to that, how many of the residents that are in question, new residents to the village who haven't been there since the beginning of the turkey fair?
Some are newer, but newer as meaning they've been there for 10 years. So it's
Yeah.
not like they have
Okay.
not experienced
Okay.
Turkey Fair.
And I do have another question. Have the residents ever been given a package of do's, don'ts that the whole turkey fair kind of runs on?
Not since we've taken over, and that's one of the communication issues we've identified is that, again, finances are always an issue as well. So a bulk mailing we've looked into is just beyond our price wise to do it ourselves. However, tapping into the township mailings and your circulars and things like
Yes.
that would be very advantageous to us and the residents as well, to be able to give them a list of do's and don'ts and also explain why things have changed
Yes.
in the last couple of years. Like I said, 99% of the things that have changed have done so for safety reasons.
Yes.
But communication, yes, we need to improve on our communication. That's already in the works.
Yes. And the other thing is, it's a very good event. I've been to it many, many times. Always pleased to be there. And I have also witnessed other events locally. One of the biggest ones we've had in the area go down because of some adverse agreement discussions, as this might be. So it's important that we fight and make sure that this continues to support our local economy and our community, and certainly everybody that is involved. It's a wonderful event. Continue on.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, I have Councillor Leclerc and then Councillor Kelman.
Thank you, and through you. Thank you very much for coming to speak to us tonight. I just have a couple quick questions. I think I read it's about 6,000 people that come to your event.
Between 4,000 to 6,000. It does vary, but let's just say it's a hell of a lot of people.
Okay, great. And how many volunteers are involved?
Not
Maybe
a
two, and then during probably more.
leading up to our committee, the LEAF directors, there's 5 of us that oversee LEAF as a whole. Then we have the Turkey Fair Committee and the Santa Claus Committee. The Turkey Fair Committee is roughly about 15 people. It goes up and down as well. And for volunteers for the day of, this past year we had 25 volunteers doing everything from garbage to transport to setting up, tearing down. So 25 volunteers that are physically there on the day, laying out the whole fair in the village and dealing with, anywhere from 4 or 5, 6,000 people. This past year, we estimate that we had roughly around 5,000. So as an example.
That's great. Thank you. Just my last question, if bylaw were to support your event, how many would you anticipate you would need in addition to the volunteers that you have?
Maybe 2. We have radio communications, and that way, if we don't have the power we have no power as volunteers. And when there is an incident that was like what was experienced previously last year, it would be nice to be able to have a bylaw enforcement come, maybe even just mitigate, be the voice of reason, as it were, but also have the backing of the authority of the township. So I would say 2. 1 would be awesome. 2 would be even better. But I don't foresee needing any more than that.
Great. Thank you so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate your presentation, and I think we got a good sense of how we could maybe look at supporting you, and thanks to all the volunteers.
Thank you.
Councillor Kelman?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I know I completely understand, Barb, the reasons that you gave for not wanting to consider a location for the Turkey Fair outside of the village. I just wonder, has the organizing committee considered scaling back to a certain extent or reconfiguring so that you can avoid the areas where residents have had concerns? I think part of the reason the Turkey Fair has grown exponentially, particularly since LEAF took it over in terms of attendees, is because you've brought in so many more vendors. And I understand that that's good revenue generating for the committee, and all of the money goes back into the community after expenses. But could you scale back on vendors so you don't have quite as many? Could you utilize more of Furnace Falls Park and Jonas Street Park? Just looking for, and I know it's been difficult losing full access to the Campayanto property. So I'm just wondering if the group has made any of that kind of consideration just to try and keep the peace in certain areas that have been causing trouble.
To answer that, we have 110 vendors, which when you look at it really isn't a lot considering the space. We've moved vendors away from the problem locations. We did that last year, and we're relooking at our vendor map again this year. We always have the challenge of, again, not owning the old Anglican Church property that is on Oakle Street. We have to rely on the goodness of Mr. Norton, who is the current owner, which we hope to have that property again. There is no intent to make the Turkey Fair any larger. And yes, scaling back in regards to events and that, no, not really. We're just sort of trying to rejig a bit of where we know the problem areas are, identifying those and accommodating. And we did that last year too, accommodating by not putting vendors on the street in front of certain properties. So I have what I call red zones on the vendor map, on the big map, planning map, which also goes in for the permits, where there will not be anything placed whatsoever. So there's no intent to have the fair grow any further. Based on discussions with the chamber, when the chamber ran the fair, and even the previous Lyndhurst Turkey Fair group, there really has not been an increase in the vendors. And as the vendor coordinator, 110 is enough. We don't want any more. And in all reality, I have 110 spaces. I only book 100. And the reason for that is if I have to move somebody. So we don't typically try to max out, even though, like you said, it is a huge financial revenue. That's our main revenue, is our vendors, to keep the fair going. So thank you.
Are there any further questions for the presenter? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming and educating us. I believe there will be a notice of motion being brought forward for further information, and we'll see where that takes us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you,
Thank you.
Council.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda for delegation is burn bylaw infraction fine, and we have Mike McMaster who's here to speak to us. Or maybe he's online, so we would need to let him into the meeting. So if you'll just bear with us for a second, please.
Hello?
Hello, there we have you now, Mr. McMaster.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. So I received a fine for not having a burn permit. And what else? There was something material, burning other materials. So at that time, I was away. I had to go an emergency to New Brunswick. My brother had an accident, and we left rather quickly, and he ended up passing away. My stepson was home. He was the guy that got the fine, and he didn't know that that you had to call in. We did have a permit, but he didn't know that you had to call in at that time. And he was just trying to help out, get rid of some of the papers and stuff that was there. And it just, I don't know. I didn't have anything to do with the getting the fine. So I always watch the burn bans, and we always burn properly, but he just didn't know. So I was thinking that this could be a warning instead of a fine at this point because of what happened.
So that's your ask, is that it become a warning instead of a fine, but the fine has been levied, correct?
That's
You've
I
received
yes.
the fine notification?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Do any of council have any questions for Mr. McMaster? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Mr. McMaster, has your civic address received any warnings or fines from the fire department previous?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Obviously, a burn, if you have a burn permit, sometimes is okay, but you talked about something else being burnt in there other than maybe just paper. Can you?
So maybe we'll have the chief speak to what the material was that was being noted as burnt.
Through your worship, thank you, Councillor Maybe. The fine infraction was for burning material without a valid open air permit. So they did have a permit that they renewed in January, but on the day that the incident occurred, they hadn't called it in, as Mr. McMaster alluded to. The second part was for burning prohibited material. So the fire prevention officer attended. We had got a phone call from one of our passerby firefighters that had got in touch with the fire prevention officer and said that they had smoke coming from this area. Fire prevention officer attended and he looked at the burn area, and there was burning of prohibitive material. So there was garbage and plastics and all of that being burnt at that time. So it wasn't just paper.
Go follow up.
As a follow-up to Mr. McMaster, do you burn garbage in this way on your property at other times?
No, we don't. I never do. I only burn like boxes or something like that, or yard waste, stuff like that. No, I never burned plastics or anything, but I didn't have control over it that day.
Right. And then as a follow-up to the chief, how big was the fire?
The fire was approximately 1.5 to 2 meters in diameter.
Okay. Any other questions? And go ahead, Councillor Leclerc.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, for clarity for people that maybe are watching, I wondered if I could ask the chief, if you have a permit like this that you've purchased in advance and don't call it, and you're calling it in, like, can you explain for the public watching why it's important to call it in when you're burning and not just have the permit?
Through your worship, great question. So we provide the permits free of charge to all residents. The idea of the permit is that for depending on what you're burning or what the status is, we give you a yearly permit. And then for anything other than a campfire, you're to call in on the day of the burn. What happens for us is we have an app, Who's Responding app, that we can check the burn permit. So if we get a call for a burn complaint, we can actually check the burn permit online before we leave, just to see if there's actually an active permit there before we send trucks out.
Go ahead, follow up.
Yeah, thank you. And a follow-up, how many calls did your office have last year?
Through your worship, we had 486 calls.
Yeah, thanks.
For the whole
So just for clarity for the public watching, it's just so important to be calling in so that we can be really efficient with the use of our resources.
So, and just to further clarify what the chief has just said, so campfires, so if you're having just a campfire sitting around burning wood, it's not required to be called in. It's only open air burning, like an incinerator, like a barrel that's burning, or if you're burning brush or anything to that effect, correct?
That's correct. The former burn bylaw had a caveat in there that you did call in for campfires. Some people still do. It's a free call, but it also helps us so we know what's happening within the township as far as fires go.
Okay. Are there any further questions for the presenter? Councillor Maybe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, can you disclose what the fine was or not? I'm just asking.
It's public record.
So it's a $200 fine for burning without a permit. And it is a 200 plus the 200 for burning prohibitive material. We didn't include a truck If we had to send a fire truck out to that scene, it would have been another $600 plus on that. Plus, we didn't also charge for the FPO's truck, which is $300 as well. We try to have a little bit of learning on that as well. So that's why we didn't up the fine, and we take a little bit of leniency on that. So this is the bare minimum of what that fine was.
Okay. Further questions? I have no hands up. We thank you for your delegation, Mr. McMaster. It'll be up to council to bring forward a notice of motion if there will be anything done.
Okay, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Thank you. Moving on to 6.3, repurposing of the Sealy's Bay Community Hall. We have David Lundman who's here to present.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is David Lundman. I live on Back Street. This is Jackie Hassafras. She's the branch coordinator for the Sealy's Bay Public Library. I'm speaking on behalf of a large group of Ward 2 residents who are deeply interested in the repurposing of the community hall. We appreciate the council's commitment to considering a future for this facility. In our view, the hall plays an important role in the life of Ward 2, and we believe it continues to hold a significant potential for our community. In the materials submitted, you will find several ideas outlining a possible next chapter for the hall. We recognize that determining its future requires thoughtful consideration, time, careful planning, and we respect the process involved. The group I represent has been consulting broadly with local stakeholders, including students, parents, seniors, business leaders, and representatives from the library to better understand the diverse needs and expectations within Ward 2. We are also reviewing other successful community hubs to identify best practices and practical models that could work here. Thank you.
Dream with me for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine. Laughter echoes from a child-safe playroom filled with educational toys and joyful energy, where children play under the caring eyes of their parents who sip warm drinks and share stories. Step into the next room and discover a pop-up artisan market where local makers display handcrafted goods that spill out onto the sidewalk, blending commerce and community. Now step further and imagine a space, 3,180 square feet of possibility that redefines what a library can be. This isn't just a place for books. It's a multifunctional community hub designed for all ages and all walks of life. A co-working space outfitted with technology, office services, a green screen, a 3D printer, a space where entrepreneurs thrive and ideas take shape. A maker space and tech lab for robotics, circuitry, and innovation, igniting young minds and empowering lifelong learners. Programming spaces for children, youth, adults, seniors that can be used simultaneously, offering everything from tech tutoring and mindfulness workshops to yoga, will preparation, and low-impact exercise classes. Recreational gear like a portable pickleball net, metal detectors, and snowshoes available to borrow, making wellness and adventure accessible to all. And further, a welcoming space for Service Ontario, Chamber of Commerce, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Victim Services, United Way, YMCA, must I go on? A music library, books and more shop, information racks, spotlighting local businesses and support services, placing our community, Sealy's Bay, at the center of it all. And when the sun sets, I'm not over, folks. When the sun sets, the library transforms. Rolling shelves are tucked away, lights dim, and the space becomes a beautiful reception venue where guests can gather for celebrations, and events are catered from the upstairs commercial kitchen. This is not just a library, folks. It's the heart of the community, a place to learn, connect, play, create, support, and grow together. Imagine. Thank you.
As part of our work, we will explore viable revenue streams to support a sustainable operating model. We will also examine appropriate fundraising approaches and develop a draft operational, financial, and technical plan within the framework of establishing a not-for-profit organization, possibly called Friends of the Station. We appreciate the opportunity to work collaboratively with council in service of our residents and look forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I have Councillor Antoine Hartley, Deputy Mayor Fody, Councillor Kelman, Councillor Maybe. Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Mayor. David, I want to say how I went through your package and I was very impressed with what I saw. Thank you very much for bringing that forward. Your floor plans are very detailed and very professional. I'm just being nosy and I already know, but I'm letting everybody else know too. What is your background?
I've been in the construction industry for 45 years. Everything from installation, manufacturing, project management, research and development, building sciences, and I'm currently employed by a company that does building envelope consulting. It's an engineering firm out of Toronto.
Thank you. So how long has this group been working with this proposal?
The group has been organized for about 2.5 years now.
Okay. And I know that you sent your proposal in. Were you contacted by staff or the designer to discuss your proposal in any way, some of the ideas that were on that?
No. The only conversation I had was at the last town hall meeting. I expressed the fact that we had a proposal to David Holiday and Dino DeSanto,
Mm-hmm.
and they said to get it to them as quickly as I could, so I sent it to them.
Okay. And how do you see this proposal beyond just the library, enhancing the quality of life for our community?
The people that came with me tonight, our concern is that, and as Jackie stated, our concern is that we have some kind of a hub that would rejuvenate the village. We would like to see some before and after school programs. Last Canada Day, when I went around the park asking people if they lived in the area, what they needed, youth activities was the #1 thing that was mentioned to me. There are a lot of needs in the community. Daycare is another one. We've been told by the consultant that that may not be, the hall might not be the greatest place for that. But if the library moves over, and it was presented by the consultant that the old library could become a daycare, so it becomes a win-win for the community.
Okay, thank you. So where did you get some of your data from besides Canada Day?
There were some early brainstorming sessions, and James Raffin and I also went to Sweets Corner School to get some ideas from them. And the group basically went through and we looked at the various suggestions to see what would work, what couldn't work, and what was needed by the community.
Thank you.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Fody, and then Councillor Kelman, then Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I'll give credit to yourself and whoever else helped you do this design work along with, excuse me, Idea Inc. I know they've been working on this for some time on our behalf. So hats off to you. It's a well-designed concept. I do want to say the options are the medical or this way, the way it's presented to us. As much as I would ever support doctors and medical centers, I would not support taxpayer dollars to build a business for somebody else to operate their business from.
So Deputy Mayor Foti, this isn't a point where you express opinions about, you're just to ask questions. Any discussion in regards of what it is has to come during the motion that's further on down here.
Okay, then I'll hold that till then. With regards to your extensive background, you ever build a library-centered community hub?
I have not. Actually, I should correct that. I'm currently the consultant on the library and archives in Ottawa.
Okay. I think there's a unique opportunity here for the Village of Sealy's Bay. It's not often that this type of scenario would present itself, that a building would become vacant. But in this case, the uniqueness is it's in dead center of the village, which, as you well see and have planned, it leads itself to a lot of opportunities. And I want to thank you for the presentation. It was well done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councillor Kelman.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I'd also like to thank Dave for coming to our library board meeting last week to do a similar presentation, just to keep the library board up to speed on what was being proposed. It was very well received. My questions are about the governance structure that you are proposing. And I don't know if you'll be able to answer all of the questions right now. It's just it piqued my interest. So the program manager, would that be a paid employee?
To start off, not likely. As things develop and grow, and if there's an ability to pay for that position, we would.
Okay, so that would be a person that would sort of fall under the steering committee, and this would all be volunteer driven, basically.
Yes.
Okay. Have you done any kind of consultation with township staff, or just to look into it to see in terms of like insurance and legally if that kind of partnership is possible?
We have not.
Okay. And have you considered long-term stability of this type of governance structure if it's all volunteer based?
We have a number of new people in the group that have extensive experience with volunteering and running nonprofit organizations. And I've been assured by them that long-term, once it gets set up correctly initially, that it can carry on running and have a succession plan so that it will keep running.
Perfect. Thank you. And I don't think this question is really for you. It's more for staff. And again, they may not know, but I'm just wondering, because you talk about the not-for-profit that you would form, negotiating with organizations and government agencies and funding partners on behalf of the township. And I don't know if that's something that would be possible, but I would be curious to know that.
I don't know if any of us have an answer to
yeah,
that right
yeah.
at the moment,
Okay.
but that's something.
Just a hanging question then. Thank you,
Depending.
Dave.
Okay. And then I have Councillor Maybe, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. One of my questions is the current library, what's its square footage? I forget. Do you have that?
Less than 900 square feet.
Okay, very small.
Yeah, 880. Thank you.
880. Yeah, very close to 900. So that's good. Okay, so you would be going into a much larger premise if it goes that way. And I like the community hub idea, which was one of the things that I was really interested in seeing how this is all going to be proposed. I think that's all my questions at this moment for this segment.
Go ahead, Councillor Leclerc.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, thank you very much, both of you, for presenting. I really appreciate that you shed light on everything that a library can be, because I think that, a lot of folks or a lot of people generally don't necessarily understand that it's changed a lot from the way that libraries used to be, a place that you rented books, and now they can be, the place to seek refuge or warm up or use a washroom or use the internet, or again, like borrow equipment to be active, and so many things. So be connected. It really is a community hub idea. Just a quick question for you. Understanding the space as you do you see a world in which a medical center could also fit in amongst with the idea, the vision that you have for library purposes? knowing what we know about what libraries really are?
So one of the issues that we looked at pretty closely was the fact that the library isn't open full time. So the way I've drawn the plans is the front portion of the building, which is the best street frontage in the village, would be open to the public on a full-time basis, as well as other portions of the building. And if the library develops further and is open to a greater amount of time, then it would be, that space is always open to the library during their hours, and there would be a retractable wall that would pull across, so the front portion could still be used for alternate purposes. We'd like the space to be somewhat transformative, so that it can be used, as Jackie explained, we move things out of the way, can do different things there. There's access to upstairs so that there can be youth activities happening at the same time. We want to get the whole community involved so that it really does become the center of the village.
Thank you very much. Just my second question, the emails that you sent signed yourself on behalf of the community group. How big is that group?
We started off at 8 and we've grown, probably we're 14 now and growing.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Further questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor Antoine Hartley.
Oh, through you, Mayor. The governance model, have you researched examples of where that has been used, been successful?
We do have examples. Jackie presented about 3 examples. Most of them are in England, but there are local areas where hubs have worked, and they've been able to, through fundraising, grants, make it work.
Okay. Any further comments or questions in regards to the delegation? We thank you for your presentation and thank you for taking time to be with us tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is briefings, and we have Dino DeSano, who's here, joined us to talk about the Seeley's Bay Hall visioning process. Right, so we'll get the briefing and then I'll put the motion on the floor. Hi, Dino.
Hi, nice to see everyone again.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
I wasn't exactly sure how you wanted us. I think you guys all received a copy of our presentation. Did you want me to run through the whole thing, or did you want to ask questions about it?
If you could run through it quickly, just for those, we have a full gallery here tonight at council chambers, and whoever might be watching online. Obviously, I'm not asking you to read all of the slides, but just kind of go through the thought process if you can do a brief overview.
Okay, I will do that. Just, share my screen if I can, hopefully.
Yep. Yeah, you should be able to share your screen.
Okay. Can everyone see that?
Not yet. Oh, wait, it's popped up now.
Terrific. So
Okay.
this was the, as everyone knows, we've been working on this for a while, since the September, I'm going to say. And it was a nice follow-up for us, because it was closing the circle after working on the Fire Hall 2 project, to sort of come back full circle to the old building and find a repurposing. As you said, I will go through this quickly, Madam Mayor. We took sort of a pragmatic approach, because we recognize that given the age of the building and everything that was going on, we really need to understand what the building could do. So we had a kind of a 2-pronged approach. We did an assessment of the building with our architectural, electrical, mechanical. We kept it fairly tight, just because we needed to know, okay, what's the state of the building and what is it telling us that it needs to do before we even start to think about, programmatic reinterpretation. We found a number of things, and like I said, this isn't what you'd consider sort of a building condition report. The township's already done one of those. We consulted it, but we also had our own staff, and we're looking at stuff like washrooms. The washrooms, for instance, were fine probably with the community hall upstairs and the fire hall, but now with the increase in the change in occupancy, washrooms insufficient, accessibility requirements, code deficiencies on stair railings, tactile indicators, things that have just evolved since the building was last touched in the 80s, right? A lot of things have happened in 40 years. The big things are electrical and mechanical, as they usually are with buildings of this age. It needs an entirely new fire alarm system, needs new lighting, a lot of panel replacements, emergency lighting, emergency exit signage, that kind of thing. HVAC, similarly, even though there's been HVAC improvements recently done, we would need to add more. We're changing from an industrial occupancy, that's what a fire station is for the main part of the apparatus bay and a little bit of the offices in the back. We have an assembly occupancy above. We're changing downstairs to an assembly occupancy of some kind, or a business and personal services, depending which option is chosen. But these are all represent increases in occupant load, increases in people. So the building has to be able to accommodate it. So this is what we did initially. And then, identified a number of things. They're in the report. I'm going to not dwell on them other than to say that, yes, they have to be done. And yes, they were considered. We also did a public engagement survey, which had, I think, great turnout. We had a public engagement meeting to follow it up. The overwhelming, at least for the respondents, the community use really was looking at medical clinic and a library, which were the two. And after that vigorous discussion and then the proposals brought forward, of which we heard from David's group, we took those away with the survey results, which were really pointing us in that direction. We did some analysis here that we had presented at that meeting. We included it in here just to round this out, so I can probably go through that. But really, we started following through. The next step was really to say, okay, we have these existing issues to deal with, and we have these two proposals that are the two leading proposals as a result of the survey. Let's see about how they're going to fit into the building and present a series of, and that's what everything else in the report is a series of concepts that are derived from the community proposals, the engagement meetings that were had with each of the groups, and then, just architectural planning, which is like the building at the end of the day. For all the wonderful things that it can be, and it's got a great location, at the end of the day, it only has so much space, and the programs take the space that they do. So the rest of the exercise was really looking at them. And because both groups had done a lot of great homework, as we just saw, we had lots to work with. And so we developed them into these options, which I'll just go to the plans, because the medical clinic, and I will say, just in response to the last part of the discussion with the library group, one of the things we looked at first, because we knew that this was kind of a desire, the building really isn't big enough to do both those programs. It really has to be one or the other. The building doesn't have enough space. And I say this without making significant changes. One of the great things about the building, apart from its location, central location, has ample amount of parking. It has the other feature that it has, which was a great foresight, was having an elevator, which makes it ultimately very, very useful. And so without getting into really, and I say this, keeping a very pragmatic approach, basically saying, look, we've got a functioning community hall with a lot of history, a lot of memories, a lot of significance to the community. And we've got this lower portion that's now been vacated. We did take the approach of sort of keeping it quite focused on the kinds of proposals that are coming forward, and keeping some kind of a budgetary approach in mind, is to sort of say, okay, what can we do with the parameters that the building is giving us? So what we did was, in consultation with the medical group, we were able to accommodate reasonably well all of the elements of the program for a medical clinic, and all of the various things that group was looking for, we can accommodate. Though there is an aspect, and I should say, I probably should have said this part first, but there is an aspect where in both cases, the area in pink is kind of what we call the base building elements. The washrooms, there are no significant washrooms, and the washrooms are a function of occupant load. So we went and figured out what the minimum amount of washrooms are. All buildings, especially the extent of renovation, require a universal washroom. They require a certain amount of units, either toilets usually or urinals. So we had to sort of say right off the bat, we're accommodating a certain amount of that space, and that's sort of non-negotiable depending on what, regardless of which option occupies the front of house. So with all of that in mind, this plan was developed. The other thing that entered the sphere as we were working on this was this idea of accommodating the food bank, which also is nearby, also needs a better home. And so the food bank sort of came in and said this, what they were looking for fit quite nicely in the basement. So we've kept that in there. And then really looked at, from that point, working with the ground floor and working with the second floor. So we've got this option, which accommodates the medical clinic nicely. And then we took, and with a few back and forths, and I see that, we had the initial proposal that the library group had provided to us after the public engagement meeting, and then we had the follow-up proposal that was just discussed. And with a couple of meetings with that group or related stakeholders, we ended up with, I think, a plan that does address all of the points. And appreciate that this is conceptual at this point. So if this was moved forward there would be refinements and developments, but accommodates all of the major elements of the library and community hub program, the makerspace, open space with shelves and seating and, lending, computer stations, and then, mobile shelving that you could reconfigure this space to accommodate different things, or as if this proposal was to move forward, there are other possibilities of planning here. This is not by no means fixed. It really just sort of to highlight what we want to do at this stage is we want to be able to demonstrate that the essential program of spaces that they're looking for can be accommodated in the building and what can't be accommodated in the building. So in this case, this was a good result. Again, all those washrooms and things that I talked about before remain. And then we looked at the possibilities for the second level, again, recognizing that a lot of history here, as we heard when we opened Fire Hall 2. And so part of it was like, how do we with the understanding that, again, in our mandate was, we know that the washrooms are out of date. We know that the kitchen needs upgrading. We know that we need better connections to the hall. And we looked at two options here. One was, and I say this filtered because there was previous things that led to these final options, but or the present options. But again, there's a sort of a back of house element where we have to modify. We took an approach of a minimal approach, which was just modifying the back of house elements, the kitchen, the washrooms, and the bar. And then basically repurposing the area of the stage so that it becomes something that's demountable at the opposite end of the room, which really retains the big open room. But this is a more minimal approach. You see that reflected in our budgetary estimates. And then, a more elaborate approach where we are doing the same things, except we're reorganizing them sort of programmatically so that we can have shared access and we can start to divide that space into separate spaces that could host different functions at the same time, thus rendering it more useful and more flexible for the kinds of community uses that were being described by the community hall and library group, and also could continue to exist potentially with a medical clinic below it. It's really just taking what's already there and the kind of function it's providing in the community and giving it sort of a new life, but still modifying and enhancing those, what we call base building services, but with better connection. We flipped the kitchen we realized that we had to flip the kitchen and the washroom to better serve this arrangement and have a common corridor so that we could access all of these if the dividers were drawn and we had 3 different events going, say, and better serving the room by having a connection between the bar area and the room directly, connection from the kitchen into the room directly, and then have the washrooms on the other side. So it really just increases the sort of the efficiency of the plan and for its intended use. And this is what we would call sort of the maximum approach. And this is after several iterations where we tried trying to split the library, put some of the library upstairs, tried to divide things out. But at the end of the day, the building is what it is. And so we ended up settling on these ones because these are the ones that, after consultation and some of our own planning ideas and what we had worked out, these are actually quite detailed for concept plans at this stage. And the reason that they're detailed is because the building isn't very big, and we wanted to be able to demonstrate sort of the efficiency of it by being detailed so that everyone could see what is possible on the plans to scale, and you can get a sense of, how many tables and chairs and seating, and you can get a feel for what the scale of the space is. We visualize space for a living, but we recognize that everyone else kind of has to depend on our drawings to sort of see what we see. So, and that's how we got here. We got here to this sort of trying to take the inherent characteristics of the building, looking at these two different ways of reprogramming it and seeing how the whole thing could work together as a new sort of presentation. I'll just add, because this is the constant through all of them, in the basement, because the basement is only part of the building, it's not the entire building, the food bank program was a good idea, really well received by that group because they're in desperate need of a better home. It fits nicely in part of the basement. The other half of the basement will be more amenity space. We've got electrical panels there. We need a new mechanical room. We need a janitor closet. We need a bit of overflow storage. So it all worked out fine that the basement could be this function that gets plugged onto the other option. And then we talk a little bit, we had considered exterior side improvements, but ended up really just, we've priced them, we've identified what they could be. We talked them a little about here, like the parking lot needs work. It needs lighting. It needs those two things very much. So some new landscaping. Then there's the building itself. I mean, it's in okay shape, but could use a new sheathing or painting on the roof. The bricks could stand to be painted to sort of just give it a little bit more life. But this is not, at the end of the day, we sort of push it off to the side because these are more of a nice to have. We really focused on what the building really needs to do. But we wanted to make sure that this got included in our budgetary pricing. So we identified it all so that we could cost estimate it. And then that's where we end. We end here with the cost estimates. We identified all the different systems, all of those base building upgrades that we need to do regardless of which option. And we sort of put numbers to them using our expertise in doing these kinds of things. And we're ending up, and because of all the different options, you kind of have to bear with us. This gets really accounty in the back, but we identified first here, the way this works is the basic cost. It's we're spending 1.1 and change million dollars just to bring the building up with those sort of basic upgrades that we talked about, the base building upgrades as we've identified them. And then we went through the various options so that they're 1.1 plus the fit up options. And then we would go through all of those, the base building, level 2, option 1, option 2, medical versus library. So you can see that there is a difference. Medical clinics cost more per square foot than the library would. Not an enormous amount, but it's still 150,000. Then food bank, 100,000. Community all upstairs, the refit, 250. Exterior improvements identified as, like I said, cosmetic, mostly cosmetic. There's probably other issues there, but we wanted to make sure we had something in the budget to improve the envelope of the building, some new windows. Or I think we tried to put the windows specifically in the options because the options require different windows, but essentially a program of work to improve the exterior of the building and the site. And then we sort of summarize it all here at the end with the various options and how they would total out, depending on which route is chosen. But, we are looking at a, close to $3 million project if every single thing was done. The idea behind the scenarios is that recognizing that it is a sizable amount and recognizing that it could be done in phases, meaning that the lower portion of the building, being the part that's been vacated, would be done as an early stage. But we did want to point out that and then the second floor is the second stage. The basement could be done independent almost. And then the exterior again would be another phase after that. So that's why it's broken out like that. But pointing out, our notes are basically saying that if we if this elects to be done in a phased approach because of budgetary reasons, that the back of house upstairs needs to be done at the same time as the lower level. It's not something that could be done independently for constructability reasons. That's really what we're pointing out. So you could do, for instance, a scenario as a sort of a basic scenario. You could do the entire ground floor, just the portion in the back. So that option one, that what we call the minimal option of the second floor, and then do the rest at a later date. But you have to appreciate that from a design standpoint, there's a sort of a fork in the road depending how the mixing and matching of these options goes. And I think it's probably, I've taken enough time in this part, and I think we can talk about questions and comments.
So just, I think I'm getting a little confused because earlier in your presentation, I think these scenarios have flipped. So I just want to make sure that we're clear so that when we get to the motion part of it. So there's scenario one, which is the library concept, more of a community hub concept. And scenario two is the medical center concept, correct?
That's right.
Okay, because I think it was flipped in earlier in the
You're right. Actually,
presentation.
you're right. Actually, that's true. I had, we were putting all this together last week, and yeah, it got flipped.
Okay.
We can fix that. It's a good point. We have to,
I just,
make sure that the two
because
are
if
aligned.
someone says they want option two, I want to make sure
Yes.
that I know which one it is. So I just don't want any sort of confusion when we get to the next part of the discussion. So,
No, that's an excellent point.
okay, so Dino's still here for the briefing, so I'll ask council if you have any questions about the concepts or the modeling as far as financials are concerned. This would be where you'd ask them, and then once we get through those questions, then I'll put the motion on the floor and we'll have further debate. Go ahead, Councillor Kalman.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Thank you very much, Dino. Could you just explain for everyone listening and hear what Class D cost estimate means?
Yes, that's an excellent point, Councillor. There is Class D budget estimate. There's 4 classes, A, B, C, D. D is usually the one that gets done at the beginning. It has what they really indicate is a variance, usually plus minus 25%. 20 to 25% is the official range, meaning that take the numbers we've presented, they could go higher by 25%. They may go lower by 25%, but that's not likely. Usually it finds its way someplace in the middle. Because we did a lot of the work normally, like I said, normally at this stage in the project, this is a lot more high level. But because we went into a great deal of detail, because the building is small, these numbers tend to be a lot tighter. So those, even though we're saying it's a Class D budget with a lot of variance to it, and we should, because there's still a lot of open-ended questions, it is plus or minus 25%.
Thank you. And the cost estimates are based on current costing, what it would cost to build this now, correct?
Yeah, we use various sources of data. Obviously, the only estimate that ever matters is the tender. But at this stage, we use the best cost data available to us and our sort of experience with the marketplace to put various, and you saw that because that was sent, you should have seen the breakdown that came with this, which we didn't really want to put in the presentation because it's really just a lot of accounting, but you see the breakdown, you see all the bits and pieces that were considered to come up with these numbers. Well, and then you see at the bottom of that breakdown that we had various allowances and percentages that were applied to the numbers to ensure that, we've covered for the part that's still unknown at this time. And that all came out. These totals are all derived from that breakdown, which includes applied percentages. And we've applied for things like, let's face it, we all know that the market is doing what it's doing because of things beyond our control. So we've tried to account for those kinds of things. Cost escalations in labor and material pricing are the kinds of things that these percentages are there to do, because as much as we can count physical things and we can say, well, right now, walls are worth X amount, or floors are worth X amount, or whatever the case is, we know that these things fluctuate. And by the time between now and when this eventually goes to tender, a lot of things can happen, especially these days. So we're trying to sort of have it so that there's a number at the end here that then should the municipality decide to move ahead, that you can use that number for budgeting purpose, but always make sure to have contingencies and everything else over and above what we have. Hopefully that's
you.
a long-winded way of answering that, but
No, that's great. Thank you. And I just have two quick design related questions. The first one is with regard to the washrooms, and I don't know if it would make a big difference space wise, but did you consider unisex washrooms similar to what you put in the new fire station?
that is a really great question as well. We did actually, because they worked quite well in the fire station early on. And remember, we were doing this working with very closely. I need to mention that, working very closely with David Holiday and Marnie Venditti as our advisors from your side, from the municipality side. And we did bring that up early on, and the advice was, let's not talk about that just yet. Let's keep it more, I don't know what the right word to apply to this. Let's say traditional. Just in the initial go around. Maybe those are things that could be revisited depending on what the community wanted to do or was prepared to be okay with. I'm a big proponent. I had said it when we were designing the fire station. I think at this point there are means and methods to do non-gendered washrooms that actually save space and save money and still provide the level of independence and privacy that they should. And so it's definitely something to be considered, but was sort of put aside, let's say, in the preparation of these options.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And my final question is regarding the existing bay doors, the garage bay doors. Is it possible with building code, if that were to be, would it be possible to retain those doors in a way that, that we saw in Dave's visioning for the space and, in terms of heating and safety and everything, could those doors be retained?
Yeah, no, I don't want to answer this. We started with the idea. I mean, I have to be honest. I've always loved the idea of being open. Have these. For starters, the doors themselves need to be replaced. They're, like a lot of things in the building, kind of end of life. And if they're going to stay in place, and because we're not living in a temperate climate that's the same all year round. So everyone sees these wonderful things with the garage doors flung open and all these patios and stuff like that. Yeah, in California maybe. But in Canada, we know that it's only possible to fling everything open for about 3 months, maybe 4 months if we're lucky out of the year. And the rest of the time they have to stay closed. So those doors, if we were to keep them as doors, as opposed to, we saw them more as infilling the openings with curtain walls, so they were just large windows. But if you wanted to operate them as doors, we would want to repurpose them as all glass doors so that you still have that function when they're closed, because you can't have them open all the time. I think the other thing to consider, and the reason we didn't, and again, this is one of those things where it's like, I love that idea, but we did set it aside for a couple of reasons. For planning purposes, it really makes it difficult to maximize the use of the space, because all of a sudden you have this operable element versus a fixed element. The second thing is it, because it worked well as a fire station, the run out in the front of the building, we didn't find it generous enough to justify sort of having it flow out, because it's essentially flowing out to the street, where actually at the side of the building, and to be fair, some of those proposals did say that, like, we had to get rid of, and I actually didn't mention this, but that little add-on on the side, which was the captain's office, it's a little wooden thing. It's not in good shape. It really can't be repurposed, so we let it go. But that area has a possibility of being the patio or the spill out or the exterior space that's complementary to the building rather than coming through the doors, which is why in our options, we really didn't consider the operability of the doors. It's something that could be revisited in design development should the project go ahead, to see maybe how maybe one or two, maybe not, but definitely it's not really possible to do all three without losing sort of space usage efficiency.
Okay.
So like I said, it's a bit of a sort of a, maybe we can look at it, but our recommendation was just to put glass walls there.
Okay. So other questions for the presenter? Go ahead, Councillor Antoine Hartley.
Through you, Mayor. So besides the survey, did you attempt to collect data any other way? My reason for asking that is that after the presentation that we had at the fire hall in October, I think it was, I had several people say to me that they didn't, when they said they wanted a medical clinic, they thought they were getting another medical clinic. So think, as you know, there's many communities, and this is one of them where we lack doctors. And so just wondering if you tried to collect data any other way after that.
Yes, but not. Yeah, I'm trying to answer this question. What we did was we had that, it was a great discussion. There was so much good discussion when we had that public presentation. What we did was those proposals are coming forth from the various groups. We received them all and their updates, and we met with the individual groups. That's what I would consider collecting more data. The vision here, and I don't necessarily want to speak for the doctor and their group, but because we spoke at the presentation and after, the idea here was to transfer the medical clinic so that it's in the center of town and have a revamp of the clinic in the hopes of a larger project to attract a new doctor or doctors that would want to come to the town as part of a succession planning effort. There's a sort of a larger business case to that thing that really wasn't part of our scope. So the part that we did was we said, okay, well, let's see if you can accommodate all of the functions of your clinic in the building. And that's really where we went, and with their support, because they had already done some preparatory work. They knew what they were looking for, the kinds of things. They gave us a lot of feedback to develop the plan that we came up with. That whole idea, and then the reality is we had to leave that question of, are you better suited staying where you are and trying to expand where you are versus coming to the building? At some point, we had to kind of let that question be answered by other sort of a larger discussion of a business case. It really wasn't part of our view on this. Is that kind of answering your question, Councillor?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mine is more, I think, to the Director of Operations. I'm just trying to do some math here. What did we budget for this consultation for the design process and the study? And where are we to date on our spending of that? What has this cost?
Through your worship, I believe that it was 30,000.
30,000
Can you
was
guys-
what was originally to do the conceptual stuff?
That is correct. And then an additional $100,000 was included in the 2026 capital budget for the next phase.
Okay, so up until now is the 30,000, and then depending on what we discuss in the next motion, that would be the 100K that's been put into the 2026 budget
That is correct.
for detailed design. Okay. Is there any discrepancies there, Mr. Treasurer? You look like you're squinting at your spreadsheet. I just want to make sure there was no discrepancy. Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Nope. Okay. Oh, sorry. My apologies, Councillor Leclerc.
No, that's okay. Thank you. My apologies because I'm new to this file and I wasn't here in the fall when this started, but this might be a question for staff or our consultant, but did the scope at all compare refurbishment versus a new build in the future for all of the services that can't seem to be housed in one space?
A new build was not considered in that.
Considered?
No.
Okay. My other question is, and I think I got this through a previous question, the proposed medical clinic is bigger than the one that exists, correct?
Correct.
And the proposed library space is bigger than the one that exists.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. I'm okay for now. Thank you.
Okay. Any further, go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And through you, one of the questions would be, with one of the reconfigurations of the second floor, the capacity for the hall changes. Do we actually have a number of the difference between current and the two options?
I don't know if that is a Dino question or a David question.
I can start. I mean, the easy answer is to look at these drawings here where we've got,
Yes.
3,160 square feet existing. And this option here, we kept that entire 3,160 intact. And this is what I called the minimum option, that we're only doing the back of house.
Yep.
When we best to compare it to this option, where here we've had to take, we're sort of at, here on my totals, we're down to 2,690 in terms of hall space, the area in green, and we've given some of that over to circulation essentially, so that we can use so that we can divide the hall up, but still have common access to the emergency stair here. And then we've got this sort of lobby space, for lack of a better term. We put a little seating out there so that you want to get away from the pounding music at the wedding. So we've gone down from 3,190 as an 3,160 as an open space to 2,690 as a subdivided space with multiple room access.
Rough numbers, 500 square feet.
Yeah, and
Rough numbers.
Mr. Fire Chief, you have any, off the top of your head, if we lost 500 square feet of footage, how many bodies that is?
Through your worship, I don't know that without checking on.
Oh, it's a building code thing?
It's a building.
Sorry,
Building code.
I thought it was fire.
Yeah, no, it's square footage per person. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can,
I
we
don't
can,
know what that is.
we can provide those. To be honest, the posted square footage of the hall the posted number at the hall is actually quite high for what it is as it stands now. And I think it's 250.
Yeah. Yes,
So
I have seen a lot of people in there. That's for sure.
yeah.
I think
so-
it depends on how you set up the hall too, whether you have if you have round tables or
Yeah.
tables and chairs.
Well, this is the drawing was here to sort of show that and sort of say, well, look, if you start subdividing the rooms, it really does come down. The area calculation that the building code asks for when it comes to this kind of thing, and I think the fire chief may agree with me, it does come down to like available bums and seats, and we would do it as at head count. The idea of posting the occupancy was a good idea back then. It remains an even better idea if this subdivision goes ahead, so that you know exactly what your capacity is in each room. And that is also tied to washrooms. It's on the one hand, it's exiting, on the other end, it's washrooms. So, but we can, if you want more, like we have worked those numbers out, we can actually provide them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let Councillor maybe follow up, but there might be further discussion here when the
Yep.
motion goes on the floor.
As a follow-up question to the design that you have placed on the screen right now, the or the northern portion of this hall has a step up. In that design, it doesn't indicate whether it's still there or it is taken away.
We hope to remove it for lots of reasons. We think that it's just a false floor. We hope that it's a false floor. We weren't really able to find out either way, but the idea would be that we would remove it because especially in this arrangement, once you have a step up, you have to provide ramp access and other things that use up floor space.
Yes.
If we find out, as we sort of move towards the next steps, if we find out that we can't remove it, then we would have to work in a ramp into this scenario in order for it to work. So it's an excellent question.
Okay.
Okay. I did want to add, just going back to the previous councillor's question, there was one other initiative that wasn't quite complete by this time, but we have initiated getting an appraisal done of the building to find out what its sale value might be, just to have another number on the table for council to consider. It was just another option. Trying to find someone who was actually willing to do it. We found them, and we're just in the process of getting them going so that they can at least understand what the building's worth in the open market. Should that.
So that would play
use.
more into Councillor Leclerc's question. If we were to sell this building and just build somewhere new rather than be constrained. Okay.
Right. And the building someplace new, that was not in the scope, because at the end of the day, it is significantly more. It was like, what do we do with the building? But the township has the option to sell it.
Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor Lackey. You have your hand up.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. You had mentioned earlier about the condition of some of the parts of the building, a captain's office, that type of thing. Have we actually consulted with an engineer to assess, because we're talking about putting things in the basement, and I've been around here long enough to know that I've seen that basement full of water more than once. So is that something that's been looked into as well?
Mr. Holliday, you have your hand up.
Hi there, through your worship. We did. We engaged. Can you guys hear me? I think my screen's
Yes, we
frozen.
can hear you. Yep.
Okay. We did engage a structural engineer to do a full assessment of the entire building, actually. And we've done some remedial work to the basement to address some of the issues that we had historically. And right now everything's in good shape. It's all cleaned up and repainted, and we're actually using it for storage currently in the lower level. So it's
And we
good.
haven't had water issues since?
From what I understand, when the work was completed by Nash to do the blue skin around the building, we have not had water in the building since then. So whatever year that was previous to me joining the municipality, it has been dry since that time.
Okay. Further questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Do you know, when it comes to unisex washrooms, is there a saving of floor space by doing so?
There would be, yes, Councillor. You can see it. I think someone brought up the new fire hall. Yeah, we were able to save a considerable amount of space by basically not doubling up. It just makes a series of unisex stalls, and rather than the building code asks us to calculate based on a 50-50 split between men and women. How many people do you expect to have? Enough fixtures for 50%, enough fixtures for the other 50%, but the unisex allows us to transpose them.
And you save on the
you save on space. Yeah.
You save on space on the sink, the wash up area as well.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That might be a discussion that we should have with the residents, how comfortable they are with that.
That's exactly right.
If there's certain countries you go to, you get initiated real fast, that it's not an option. If you want to use the washroom, this is how it functions.
It functions like that in your house too.
It does.
Just
You're
saying.
right. Good point. It functions pretty well in the house.
Well, I tell you, I had the opportunity to visit Denmark a couple of years ago now, a year and a half ago. And, for instance, there wasn't a public washroom that I went to that wasn't unisex.
Right.
And traveling around.
Do you know, I want to thank you. There's a great comfort zone in having worked with a company before and flesh out the fact that you're good at what you do. So when you come back around, as you did with your company on this rebuild, it gives me personally a lot of comfort to know that I don't have to look through the weeds, if you will, to see what you've accomplished here. So thank you.
Okay, so I have one more question from Councillor Maybe, and then we're going to move on to the staff reports.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. The design that you have on the screen still, it has the reconfigured kitchen bathroom area. Was that ever considered for the open space concept of the previous floor plan?
Yes, Councillor, it was. It's just we wanted to be able to show them both. So yes, you could take this if it was sort of said, look, we'll just go ahead with the back of house, but we like this version. Absolutely.
Yes.
Just do this version. And what we wanted to show, the reason we showed them separately and priced them separately was because we just wanted to be able for you guys to know that we had looked at a minimal one where it retained a lot of the existing here. It was just a cost thing, but just to show, but yeah, you can mix and match that part for sure. And I'll just take the opportunity to reiterate. If we do go ahead with just the lower portion, we really do need to do the back of house upstairs because of the interconnection between the floors.
That's part of the reason for my question, is actually to make sure we're clear on what we may want to do there, as well as the other design actually brings the kitchen back up to a standard that is more appropriate to today's standards of a functioning, serviceable industrial kitchen.
Absolutely. Yeah. NFPA, hood, the whole thing. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I have no further hands up, so I thank you, Dino, for all of your briefing here this evening as far as providing information for both us and the public. We do appreciate the efforts that you've put in. So the next point on our agenda, there is no public meeting, and so we'll move on to staff reports, which is the Sealy's Bay Hall revisioning proposed use options. And the motion is moved by Deputy Mayor Fody, seconded by Councillor Antoine Hartley, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that council and staff, that council direct staff to proceed with the detailed design phase of the Sealy's Bay Community Hall project, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that council direct staff to proceed with option blank for the fire hall portion of the design as described in report 2026-009, and that the Committee of the Whole, I'm having a hard time. I think it might be break time. That the Committee of the Whole recommends that council direct staff to proceed with option blank for the community hall portion of the design as described in report number 2026-009. So that motion is now on the floor. And before we go any further, I just want to reiterate, option 1 is library on the main floor. Option 2 is medical on the main floor. And then upstairs, option 1, that's option 2 that's up, is it not, Dino? I'm sorry.
That
Okay,
is correct.
yes, that's, so this detailed design is number 2 and the other one is number 1. So it's where this gets a little bit fuzzy. I wanted to be very clear. So the first option for the community hall is basically leaving the design very similar to the layout now versus reducing and sectioning, which is option 2 for the upstairs. So option 1 is library on the main level, option 2 is medical on the main level, and option 1 is leaving it the way it is upstairs on the upstairs. This is confusing. I just want to be very clear. And option 2 is the sectioning of the upstairs. So well, I'd like to hear from everyone. I'll maybe start at the side of the horseshoe. Councillor Lackey, in regards to your feelings on potential designs or any concerns, go ahead.
I, for one, would like to see the library moved over there to increase their space. As far as anything else, I don't care, but I'd go for the library so that we can divest in another building, perhaps, maybe 2, because I think that also includes the food bank. Yeah, so we'd be able to get rid of the old library and the food bank trailer.
Okay. So as far as your preference for the upstairs, do you have a preference in leaving it the way it is or sectioning it like option 2?
In my own opinion, I'd like to see it revamped, as with what the majority of the people would like to see.
Okay. Okay. Councillor Kelman.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. I have been feeling very conflicted about this report since I first read it late last week, because I don't really care what I want. I came on council right before we had the first town hall that was hosted by Sabara in Sealy's Bay. And from the beginning, I have wanted to do with the building what the majority of people in the community want to do with the building. So my personal preference is to move the library, but I can't ignore the survey results. And I can't ignore the fact that I was very impressed to see what could be included in terms of moving the medical clinic in there. There's a lot more in there than I thought we would be able to fit in there. What I really am concerned about is that I have had no feedback from the public since the agenda came out late last week, which seems unusual to me because in Ward 2 and particularly in the Sealy's Bay area, this is probably the biggest issue. And so that says to me that this is not on the radar of the general public in that area, with the exception of the very devoted people that are in the room in chambers today. I would actually like to request a deferral on this decision because I would like at least another month for this to be sort of put out there, whether it's just on my own social media or through township social media, just to get more feedback from the public. because I can speak for myself, but I'm hesitant to just override the results from the survey, even if I feel like maybe there was some misunderstanding and that the survey results were skewed a little bit. I would like to ask for a deferral.
Okay. So with your indulgence, I might ask other people's
Absolutely.
input and
Absolutely.
then entertain the deferral to not just, but to more give people the opportunity to provide feedback.
It would make me much more comfortable voting on this if the general public had more time to see that decision was being made right now.
Okay. Councillor Leclerc.
Yeah, thank you. And through you, I'm also struggling with this. It's really, to see the results and hear that people want healthcare. I get it. I absolutely get it. It's what we hear door to door. It's what we're hearing all the time. But I don't feel confident that this is the solution for that. It's a provincial responsibility, and I am not opposed to incentives for recruiting healthcare workers. I've seen it work in other communities. We know that it works, but that's not this. This isn't a promise that other doctors are going to come just because we have the space there. And I see that in other communities, yes, they create space and they're able to then recruit doctors. But again, that's with more dollars to recruit doctors. So I'm not opposed to either option. I do appreciate the suggestion around a deferral just for more information and more community consultation, because this is a tough one. In principle, if I was to vote right now, I would say I would support the library and the new community hall. And that is because I'm not sure that putting the dollars into the medical clinic is actually going to give people more medical care. And that's the part that I really struggle with. And let this be, another call out. We see communities do this all the time to the provincial government that the model is broken, it's not working, and it's falling on municipalities and townships to come up with solutions with dollars that need to be spent into community spaces. So it's frustrating for me. That's all I would say right now.
Okay. Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For me, I don't know whether we've actually considered our presentation from David Lundman in this whole scenario. So I'm not sure about that as much as, there's bits and pieces of it here as in the library, but the actual design that was given to us during our presentation was different than this. So I don't know whether there's a marriage in designs that could be done. But again, I'm also in the same boat of deferral because there's not enough information in my mind to really be clear which way we're going. Because as I mentioned, I talked about the design for the second floor, changing the kitchen, which is a fairly simple thing, but can it? Are we sure of that? And as a community space, that's number one for me. I'm not for the medical space. The medical it's being paid for one way or the other. The other thing about this, where's the funds coming from to actually do this project and the time frame for that?
So as indicated, there's $100,000 for detailed design to be done this year, and then it would be up to the future council of 20 after the municipal election to come up with a plan. And we would call upon the treasurer and the director of operations to speak more to the asset management plan and because I know there would have been money already put into maintenance on that building, but not necessarily revival, or I could be totally wrong.
Through you, Mayor. So in the 10-year capital financial plan that was included in the 2026 budget, there's certainly updates or asset replacement of different components of the building. I haven't compared a side by side of what that would include. There was, in the 10 years, there's about $500,000 specifically in the Sealy's Bay Community Hall for various updates, asset replacements. And then there's about another $170,000 in updates to the current library as well in Lyndhurst in the 10 years. So
in Lyndhurst or in Sealy's Bay?
Sorry, Sealy's Bay Library.
Okay.
My bad. The Sealy's Bay Library as well. So between those two facilities, there's roughly about $600,000 in the next 10 years already in the asset management plan for various components.
I would say that it would be a pretty important piece. Obviously, not to hijack your question here, but without detailed design, we have no idea what it's actually going to cost. So the Class D estimate that was already discussed is a pretty big swing potentially, even though with more detail on this particular item, it is probably a little bit sharper on the pencil. However, this to me there's a lot of iterations of finances that come before a decision whether you move forward with it. But what I have learned in the 8 years that we've almost been here, or that I've almost been here, is that if you don't have that sitting there, you can't apply for grants, you can't apply for other programs that the province or the feds come out with. So in my mind, getting it right up front and having a detailed design, regardless of which way council decides to go with this, makes us prepared for whatever opportunity might come forward. But having that additional financial information is important. But the other thing, and not to rain on anybody's parade here, financially, when you build a new building, we then have to put away for replacement of that new building. So right now, we're putting away money based on an older value of a building. And my understanding is our obligation under asset management would be that it wouldn't just be what the carrying costs are for what it would cost us to build it, but also going forward, what we need to put in reserves for replacement. Am I correct, Mr. Treasurer?
Through you, Mayor, yes, in an ideal world, that's what you would do.
Okay. Sorry, and then that's not to rain on anybody's parade, but this is what we're faced with as a municipality with all structures, not just in Sealy's Bay or Lyndhurst or Lansdowne. So anyways, do you have further comments to make? So
I'm on deferral at this
deferral?
moment.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Well, as I wrongly inserted earlier in the meeting, and I'll reiterate, I could not consciously take taxpayers' money, create a building that somebody can operate a business out of. We're opening the door to 3 mechanics that are good friends that want us to build them a garage, and it goes on and on and on. I would not vote for the medical realignment. However, I thoroughly enjoyed the presentation that Dave put up, Dave put up here earlier tonight, and what Dino has provided, Idea Inc. It's well done, but more importantly, it ties the whole community together with the food bank, the community hub that it's always been. It doesn't change the fabric of Sealy's Bay, and I think that's important, really important. So I'm steadfast voting, but I do like the idea Councillor Kelman had of deferring this. I was caught off guard when I got this presentation last week in our council package that we were voting on this tonight. I even phoned Councillor Monique Antoine Hartley on Saturday to see if I missed something on a secondary survey that may have went out after it was kind of narrowed in. Yes, we had the 2 primary suggestions, medical and library. There were 64 other people had chose totally other options. Where would those 64 people vote now had they a choice of just these 2, either or? But that's where I stand on it as far as the vote. The other point is that if we go this way and the library moves over there, we have a library for sale now across the road, what we choose to do with that. So rather than sell the community hub, I'd feel a little less guilty selling the library building. It could be it's a good little building. It could be who knows what. But as I just stated a second ago, as far as the dollars, sarcastically, we could just pull 2 fire pumpers back from the chief and everything's paid for. But the cost of
Fire chief now.
well, he's easy to pick on because the cost of fire equipment, not that it's his fault, is astronomical. So, I mean, in the big scheme of things, it's either 2 fire pumpers or completely finish the hall. But in the reality, I do support Councillor Kelman's suggestion. We defer this, talk to the residents, see what they want. It's their hall. We could direct it and do as we please. And in the end, finish it the way it should be done, as the way the people want it. But I would like to hear them have the last word. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Antoine Hartley.
Well, I totally agree in that I think we need to have a little bit more data collected. And as Councillor Fody said, there were a number of other people that had ideas that didn't show up on that survey that now if they had two plans in front of them, which one would they choose?
Okay.
And I think that clarity needs to be had. So I would be fine with deferring it because this is big bucks and we need to make the right decision from the start, and rushing through it is not going to go well for us probably. So.
Okay. So, as far as your, doesn't really matter at this point. Motion to defer is coming from Councillor Kelman. Is there a second? Sorry?
Just want to ask for some clarity.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, through you. Just for clarity, if the motion to defer proceeds, I'd be looking for some further direction in terms of staff, in terms of what the expectation is in terms of how you want. You mentioned through your social media page, but do you want it through ours? Do you want to we need to know what we need to bring back.
Can I put the motion to defer and then we'll discuss what the direction is? Okay. So motion to defer is coming from Councillor Kelman and then seconding Councillor Maybe. Okay, so discussion to defer. The CAO, the acting CAO is requesting further information as to what the expectation is from council as far as communicating with the public. So Councillor Kelman, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. My thinking is I would like to see it go out on township social media and on the website, but I'm putting the onus on the public. If they want to have a say, they have another month or whatever we decide. I think a month is plenty of time to have a say. I don't think we need to do another survey or anything like that formally. I just would like more time for anyone that would like to provide feedback to give feedback. And I will say too, I think as councillors, we do have to think about future residents. So it's not just current residents that have a say, but I do feel that we need to get, I would like to get a little bit more feedback. If there's any, I might not hear anything from anyone, but I would like to give people a little bit more time to find out that this decision is happening right now. And so just publicizing that this decision is going to be made at the next meeting. And if you would like to provide feedback, contact your council.
So the deferral would be till April committee of the whole, because then the public can actually ask questions as well.
That would be
So
my
I
preference.
have Councillor Leclerc's hand up.
Yeah, thank you. And yes, inviting those that, completed the survey in support of the medical center to come out and speak to us. I don't know that we heard from them today. So there was a suggestion earlier that there was ambiguity around what that really meant, what that would really look like, if it would be another medical center, if it would mean increased doctors. I think we need to hear from those folks as well on what this means to them.
Councillor Antoine Hartley, what she said?
Exactly.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I would say that we shouldn't muddy the waters. The two options should stay the same.
Right.
Otherwise, we'll be into a quagmire by April.
But what's been proposed here tonight for the public's edification is that there's two concepts, one being a medical clinic with the food bank as well, still underneath, as well as community center remaining above, as well as the library. So that's option one. And then option two is the medical clinic. So really it's the base level that's different in these concepts, and we can fool around with how the upstairs looks like, but both concepts include the food bank. But to the points that have already been made, speaking to this deferral, the proposed drawings are a facility. It's not staffing of doctors. It's just to provide an actual space for doctors to operate out of currently, and that would provide additional space over and above what the existing clinic that exists in Sealy's Bay, but that would require recruitment and what other items to actually fill it. So it doesn't guarantee that there's other doctors coming. So just to be clear for anybody listening, go ahead, Mr. Treasurer.
Through you, Mayor, sorry not to interrupt. Just on the timeline of it, I would say if we want to expand beyond just our socials and website, the second quarter newsletter will be going out at the beginning of April, is another way that has a wide reach in publication as well.
So you're saying push it to May committee?
Well, I'm not saying you have to, I'm just saying that that's another way to get it out to lots of people.
I would say that social media is probably more engaging than, I'm not saying that the newsletter isn't important. I will stand behind the fact that we still do the newsletter for a good reason. But I would say that giving a month of extra time and all the counselors being able to take calls as well as myself in regards to this item, I think gives, because the other thing is that we have to make a decision so that staff can move forward with whatever direction we need to do, but it does give the public a full month to respond back. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through, I think our best news media are sitting in the gallery tonight.
So I would
You
imagine
know,
that people will know that the phone lines.
these are the people that matter. That's why we're looking at this.
So we used to use phone lines, the little curly things on the phone, but they're not going to burn up, but the cell phone towers might burn up after this evening. So the motion to defer remains on the floor. Any further comments for or against the deferral? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the deferral. All those in favor of deferral? All those opposed? And we're carried. Okay, so this will be carried over to the April Committee of the Whole meeting, and then we'll be further up for further discussion. We do need a break. It's 7:55, folks. We're gonna take a 10-minute comfort break and then come back. So we'll be back at 8:05. Okay. Okay. So we're moving on to staff reports, review of notices of motion 2018 to 2026. Madam Clerk.
Employee code of conduct first, please.
Oh, I apologize. I've been writing my notes over top of it. I apologize. 9.2, employee code of conduct. The committee of the whole recommends, and the motion comes forward from Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Leclerc. The committee of the whole recommends that council receive report administration 2026-006, employee code of conduct HR 2026-01. That the committee of the whole recommends that council give first, second, third reading and final passage to bylaw 2026-006 be granted to enact the employee code of conduct HR 2026-01. Does this repeal any previous bylaw, Madam Clerk?
Well,
Okay, sorry. Usually it says that in the motion that we're repealing whatever previous code of conduct it was a bylaw. So anyways, that's fine. I'll go to the HR manager.
Yeah, it speaks to it in the report because it's a little convoluted.
Okay.
Sorry.
So I just wanted to double check from a procedural point of view. So the motion is on the floor. Questions from council in regards to this? Other than it's very outdated and antiquated, and that's why it needed to be brought up into, I think it's over 10 years old now. 2016, so 10 years. Go ahead, Councillor, maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, perhaps just a highlighted briefing of maybe what we're looking at as a highlight or high point of what's being changed. I know I've read it all, but for our viewing public.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. There's quite several areas in the report that is being looked at. First of all, policy statement that doesn't have one. Definitions did not formally exist, so that has been added. The scope of work has been, we removed the reference to council code of conduct because council has their own code of conduct. The purpose was missing in the current policy. Responsibilities was updated with some more clarity, and professional conduct was very minimal. And then we get into public criticism. It's very minimal again. And so we try to add a little bit more substance and depth to that. Compliance, in the current policy, the compliance is incorporated into the procedure. So you'll see a lot of everything kind of mixed into one. And so we're really trying to provide some definition to each of the components. Media relations, there's real no reference to that. So we tried to include that as well. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, there's no reference to that. And now that is a very forward-thinking concept you add to policies. Conflicts of interest, again, very minimal and provides some more depth, gives some favor. There is reference to that, again, not much to that. And so we try to add more information, personal gain and favoritism. I noticed I say it's not referenced. There is a very brief reference on page 4 of the 7 of the current policy on section O that speaks to discounts or favors. And then moving along to township assets, again, minimal, outside activities, it's not referenced. Code of conduct at council and committee meetings, there's no reference. Political activity, there's no reference. And going into a election year, making sure there's some kind of information around that. And then we get into collection, use, and disclosure of confidential information. There is reference to that, but there's more information trying to reinforce that requirement for personal and confidential information, financial integrity, no specific reference, code of conduct. A lot of staff may be a part of some type of professional code of conduct, and so it references that. And then we kind of take apart the reporting of a violation of the code of conduct and investigating the breaches of the code of conduct, because right now they're all intertwined. And then we get to the commitment to non-retaliation, and it's very minimal to that. And it's really important that we emphasize that to ensure, that confidence in processes.
Go ahead.
Just as a follow-up, does this help with any of the unionized talks that we have or any influence on the union itself that we have within the township?
I mean, we're all part of, whether you're union or non-union, we all have a code of conduct, and the union, have to defer to our policies. I mean, they have a collective agreement that speaks specifically to kind of their overtime, breaks, wages, et cetera. But when it comes to the management of employees, that is the responsibility of the township.
So it's an overreaching policy and applies to both non-union and union. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Worship, and through you, to our Director of Human Resources. The agreement that you have on the back page of 7 out of 7, I assume that's a mandatory agreement that has to be signed by every employee?
Thank you, Worship, and through you. I mean, at the time in this policy, yes, there's an acknowledgement, but we can modernize that through an online signature or online process. I mean, the days of collecting paper where people physically sign it are a bit antiquated. We can do that through training, digital signatures. We also acknowledge confidentiality in employment contracts, all these things. But I mean, just to ask people to collect and scan this is a bit older kind of method.
But I think the question is,
Oh,
is that
sorry.
they have to verify that they've
Yes.
actually done it.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
so it'll likely probably be online training, and it will require verification that you have received it, you read it, and you understand it.
Right, that's my point. Exactly. Somebody's not going to come back 5 years later on a wrongful dismissal and say, I was never made aware of this. Right.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, further comments or questions in regards to this updated policy? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Thank you. Now we're on to staff reports. My apologies for getting ahead of myself. Review of notices of motion for 2018 to 2026. This was a request by Councillor Lackey previously. Go ahead.
That's correct. So I did take the last few months to go through the minutes from both our old Civic Web and our new eScribe. I did the best I could. If anybody has any errors and omissions that they want to let me know of, by all means, go ahead. And then each staff member that was responsible for the motion or something within the motion, just made a small note of where we were at. There are several motions in that list where a previous staff member would have been responsible for it. So we've done the best that we could as staff to let council know where we think we're at with that. If it was something that had previously happened, we can only sometimes assume that staff did send a letter or do something.
Okay, so go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, Worship, through you. I'm not really focused individually on any of these. My point to the whole exercise was the fact of how are we going to prevent this from happening
in
the future.
Okay.
A lot of these, I will say, were actually completed not because someone actually took the time to do them. They got completed because somewhere in the future, another project or anyway, it got solved.
But I think your
possibly
point
by mistake.
But I think your point is well taken. That we provide notices of motion, we put a motion on the floor, we ask for something to
We're
become.
council, and when 4 out of 7 councilors say something, somebody better listen and do it.
Yeah, and so follow up is key. So going forward, Madam Clerk.
Point taken. And Marnie and I have been speaking with the individuals who provide the eScribe service, and we're working through getting basically a task list and working through eScribe and doing that. I just did one while we were speaking about the Sealy's Bay Hall, and I've sent it to Marnie. So point taken.
So under the new system, we'll be able to track things easier. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, on to information. Oh, sorry, my apologies. Go ahead.
Telling me I've been talking too much tonight. Just on July 14th, I brought forth a motion to have the SCP, the special events permit, reviewed, and it's not on the list. And I spoke to Michelle about it, but now this is a newbie error on my part. I just kind of assumed it was going to get done, and not some of my conversations with the volunteer organizers and stuff, I'm thinking it might not have gotten done. So
So
there's, I'd really like an update on that.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. So the special event permit process, so the application form has been updated. I believe at that meeting, Terry had a point about more drop down and just clicking boxes, kind of getting away from the text box of having to type a lot of stuff. So the new, it's been in, I think, since the fall. There is a new application form online. So the new process, the way it works is now they fill out that form. It goes to our community engagement coordinator, Tracy, and she actually sets up a meeting with the applicant, and then she goes through it with them. So one of the other things we always heard was in the past, them having to contact, 5 or 6 different various people through the township. Tracy really acts as that liaison now. So she gets the application, meets with them, and then she reaches out. So really they have her as the point of contact. They take care of the facility bookings if that's required, anything of that nature. One of the other parts of the discussions was about the accessibility and removing barriers or fees. I think we all know that a report's coming back under a facility free use policy that will address some of those concerns. So I'd say that's where we're at right now.
Just another point in that, I guess maybe I was kind of hoping that Tracy would reach out to the people that are actually doing that paperwork to get feedback. And I know of one person that and that does a lot of them, and I know that she was never contacted to be asked, like, is there something that we could do that would be different? So just that correspondence back and forth to help. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Leclerc.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for this. There's a lot of work went into this, I think. So appreciate that. Just for clarity, there are some things in here that just say they need more information, or, a committee hasn't met in a while. Is action being done on past things, or is this more of a forward-looking document?
Sure.
Were those things not passed by a majority of council and direction given to staff?
They should be followed up on.
They're valid.
Yep, go ahead.
Through you, a number of them are being worked on. I think that we could probably refine the list a little bit more. There's a number of things that are outside of the jurisdiction of the township that are in there. And again, there's somewhere there were letters that were sent and we may not have the specifics of them. But there are also a number that were noted as being included in work plans. So I think that working from this list, we'd like to try to get it into a more manageable format and start to
tick them off
and refine this a little bit more. So this stuff isn't going away. It needs to be addressed. There's a number of them that have been addressed that don't necessarily need to continue to be on there. So I think that we need to look at this and refine it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And point taken on our end. I think anytime we can provide timelines on things, that's probably really helpful. So we'll be sure to do that too.
Okay. Further comments in regards to the review of notices of motion? Seeing none, I'll go forward with information items. And there weren't any this week. Rise and report minutes from committees, working groups, and local boards. So 12.1 recreation working group. Any questions or comments in regards to that? Sorry. Oh, it's just automatically. Sorry, I was like, TLTI Library Board, we do have our library CEO who's here this evening if there's any questions in regards to the board work. I have no hands up. Notices of motion. Ms. Kelman.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I would like to bring forward a notice of motion regarding the delegation that we had earlier from LEAF about the Turkey Fair. I would like to get a report back from staff with some feedback on the concerns and requests raised, and then we could have a conversation about it at council. And I'm not attaching a timeline, but I would assume because they are already in the planning, well into the planning stages of Turkey Fair, that they would appreciate having whatever feedback we can provide as soon as possible.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would also like to add 6.2, the infraction on the fire permit.
What would you like to make a notice of motion?
I would like to make a notice of motion that we waive that. Things can happen, mistakes happen. If that story is it's in entirety, then we can have this discussion. And if that is the case, we can waive it. But where and when do we have that discussion, here and now?
Okay, so notice of motion will come forward in regards to the Mike McMaster fine, as well as the Turkey Fair review.
I'll talk to the chief prior to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, any other notices of motion? Seeing none, we'll move forward with statements or announcements from councillors. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe, and then Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you, just to reiterate about the recent accident on the or close to the rampway off the 401 and whether that was actually involved. Again, the red light there, as we keep saying, maybe MTO needs to be reminded that there was another accident there and that we still need to move forward with that. Thank you.
So is there anything that we can put on the notices of motion? Well, not notice of motion, the list in regards to delegations, they should be kept separate for future. There should be a delegation list because this is a perfect example of a delegation that we've done previously. And now we've had another near miss where someone was, so perhaps we could put it on the list for AMO and any other delegations as council is doing their work around the table and preparation for said meetings. If there are any delegations you would like to ensure that we get on the board for, usually called for delegations come out in June for AMO. It's usually a couple of months before. So so please make sure you let the clerk know or have a notice of motion come forward at a council meeting so that we can get the support of council to move forward with that. Okay, so Deputy Mayor Fody, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, a quick fix on our weekly update. All the recreation segments fall under operations and infrastructure. We need to throw a separate heading on there. Just recreation would be suffice, but it's a little misleading. I'm reading down through there, wondering how this ties into operations and infrastructure. Technically, it doesn't.
They answer to the director of operations. That's why.
Right, but to me, there's two totally different departments there. What I would like to see, and we can have a discussion here on it now for the length of time it would take, which is short, I would hope. Should we be supporting our MPP and MP in their stand on Alto train?
That would require, I would say that we would need to have a briefing and a motion from council. So if council is looking for, they're still doing consultations. I don't know if they've extended the date because I believe it was the 31st. But there needs to be something to put up for discussion and information purposes before we make it a stance on this. I know that Councillor Kelman's made a stance in regards to Cataraqui, but I'll let you go there.
I will speak to that. We had a report from the general manager of the Cataraqui Conservation at our board meeting last week. And at the end of, when I read the report on the agenda ahead of time, I thought, well, he wasn't asking for direction. And so he did in the room ask for if the board wanted to give any kind of direction at the end. And then a motion was made by board members that we basically say we don't support the current southern route that's proposed, but that we would ask that as the board, that they investigate going along the 401 corridor. So of course that would go through our municipality. So I was not expecting to have, and it was a recorded vote. I wasn't expecting to have to make a decision about what I thought. And I did do a social media post about this to make very clear that the vote that I gave was my vote, and I was not voting on behalf of council or other councillors. But I just had a very strong feeling that if there was a proposed route through our municipality, the majority of residents would be against it. So I voted against it, but the motion did carry. So as a board, there is a request out there to look at an alternate route, and that would bring a stop to Kingston and then bring the whole line along the 401 corridor. Personally, I don't think that's a viable option geographically, but it's just out there. So I don't know whether we'll ever see that, but that's what we were sort of handed. Things are done a little differently at the Conservation Authority Board than we would do it here. There's, you can have a motion and vote on it all in one meeting. So, and in those meetings, my experience so far, it's only my second meeting, is that most board members attend online, or virtually. So I'm not sure if everyone was processing exactly what the decision was being made, but that's the way the vote went. It was a vote of 10-3 in favor of exploring an alternate southern route.
I think the challenge is right now is that the consultation is being done around the route that's being proposed, which is a big swath, which goes through Rideau Lakes, but no specificity of where. The call to action to actually push it to the southern route along what is an existing rail line or around the 401 corridor is more preferable because of the existing infrastructure could be utilized. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Kelman, it comes down to the fact that there's really not an option that's been presented. So you can't be in favor of one and the other. But what it seems that everybody's in favor of is not having the corridor where it is, the current proposed southern passage, because it goes right through Chaffee's Locks, Rideau Lakes, like Catarocte Way Trail. It's a pretty invasive piece. So I think that conceivably putting it along the 401 corridor with an existing infrastructure swath, it might be better received because it's where things are currently. But there's no proposals, there's no whatever. But at this point, I think it's about supporting that we don't support the southern route, which is as proposed. But I'll go to the deputy mayor.
Just further, this whole proposal is grossly incompetent. Absolutely incompetent. They being a small group of people have an agenda and they intend to make it happen come hell or high water, pardon my language, and they don't care whose property they go through or how they go through it. I've seen people suggest a monorail. That would be a much more appeasable way of handling this. It would be elevated. There would be piles in the ground. It'd be up off the ground. If this goes through at all, it's going to upset lives by the thousands. And to what avail as the conversations have gone on? So 500 to 1,000 people a month can travel a little further, a little faster? I don't know, but I know our MPP and our MPP have taken a stand on it. For fear that it could come here someday, I think we should give them our personal backing. I'm going to attend a presentation in Perth, likely not much what's different than what's been done in other locations in Sydenham and that in recent days, although there has been some indication somebody of competence is coming there on Wednesday. We'll see. But
so if you want to put a notice of motion saying that we don't support the proposed southern route, you're welcome to do that.
I would rather put a notice of motion saying we don't support any route. But like I said, I mean what I say. It's grossly incompetent. It's just absolutely preposterous that any government would stand behind this on any level of competence.
So, so if there is going to be a motion to come forward, somebody needs to make a notice of motion here now. Okay, Counselor, maybe you can work with the clerk to bring that forward. Okay, any other notices of motion? Last call for notices of motion. Seeing none, or sorry, I've already done that. Statement from counselors. I'm out of order. I apologize. Statements from counselors. Any further? Okay, I'll move to the mayor's update. So culture, leisure. I'm having trouble with my words this evening. I apologize. Culture, Leisure, Recreation, and Sport Expo was held Saturday, February 21st from 9 to 3. I believe it was postponed due to weather one day, and we thank the 25 community groups and the organizations that hosted a booth. International Women's Day is March the 8th, 2026. There is an event in the town of Gananoque host and the Travel Thousand Islands Visitor Center in partnership with Eastern Ontario Eastern Workforce Innovation Board and the Downtown BIA. Listening to 3 inspiring women, enjoy coffee, treats, connect, celebrate, and get inspired. Tickets are available through Eventbrite. A series of 3 vegetable gardening seminars are given by Dave Alguire will be held at the Portland Country Roads Community Health Center, and there'll be contact information on our website. Gananoque District Humane Society is hosting an adult use clothing sale on March 7th from 9 until 1. So announcements. We have received 11 25th anniversary logo submissions. The community is encouraged to vote. Voting closes on Saturday, March the 7th. The selected logo will go up on the township flag for 1 year. Folks can vote online via the link onto our website, homepage, Facebook page, or you can come into the township office and cast a paper vote. Grants. Applications are coming in for the community grants program to provide modest levels of support and assistance to community not-for-profit or charitable organizations. Deadline to apply is April 3rd. Community groups that were recipients of a 2025 community grant are reminded that to submit their final reports by March 31st, 2026. Just a note, if you don't submit your final report for last year, you can't get one for this year. So very important. Youth Bursary Program is accepting applications until March 31st, 2026. Community Improvement Plan is accepting applications for the spring intake. The first step in applying is to contact Lindsay in our planning department to discuss your project. Grant closes at the end of May. And the next peer meeting is on Tuesday, March the 10th. And call for nominations will go out for the end of the week with a deadline of March 31st for nomination of an Ontario Senior of the Year award. So if you know of anybody who's deserving of this award, please make sure that you get your nomination in. This is a nomination for a local senior who, after age 65, has enriched their community's social, cultural, and civic life. Award is presented by a municipality, and it's a testament to seniors' contributions across fields such as arts, literature, community service, volunteering, education, and much more. To be eligible for the award, the nominee must be a model Ontarian who demonstrates exceptional long-term efforts to positively transform lives of countless people in their communities. So Frida White recently passed, was one of the recipients of said award. So that would give you a good indication of someone maybe you know in your community who would be a worthy recipient. Okay. Any other, the other thing that I will say, there are 2 International Women's Day events. One for the counties, which is being held in Kemptville, and I think it's close to being sold out, if not. I've also been asked to speak in Ottawa on Friday at an International Women's Day event that's featuring 3 female mayors. So myself, Krista Lowry, who is also the president of Roma, from Mississippi Mills, and Nancy Peckford from North Grenville, and we're doing a mayor's panel. So watch for some, I'm sure there'll be some clips and social media stuff, but that event has been sold out now. So very flattered to be asked to be part of that. And I think that's everything. Okay. Sorry. Sheet here. No closed session, so we're moving on to adjournment, and the motion comes from Councillor Leclerc, seconded by Councillor Kelman, that the committee of whole adjourn at 8:35 p.m. All those in favor? All those opposed, and we're carried. Thank you, everyone.